Well, hello everyone. TheOntarioGardener here, back with another modded PlateUp automation tutorial. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about pork, or maybe it's called roasted pork. The mod, it's one of the mods from the Steam Workshop. So the thing is with this is when you start off with roasted pork. And basically, this is a setup with roasted pork and Cracklin, because Cracklin is a card you can get as a side. Now, if you're not using Cracklin, basically this whole setup at the bottom will remain. This portioner will then portion into this, and that would go into a jiggle bin sitting here. The rest of this is if you have the Cracklin card as well, which I mean is not a guarantee, but is one that you can get. So it's better just to show you how it works, because it's very, very compact. If you're doing it separately, you're just going to basically go from here to a safety hob. You're then going to pull this as a regular grabber. You could actually even have this, now you want to have it set up like this anyway. Go to this, and then it's going to portion the Cracklin off, and then the pork itself will go down to this one. This could actually be here. This could be pushed back one whole block if you really want it. You could portion it from here. It doesn't matter. It would go from here, and then I have it like this so that way there's two backed up at one time. Portion, go into a prep station. If you want to do the Cracklin as well, it'll go up here. The Cracklin, instead of it being portioned here, like basically you'd have a portioner here, and then you'd have this going into a jiggle bin. But if you want to do Cracklin, you have this going to this station here, portioning from here going into a frozen prep, or regular preps. Now, and then this part up here is necessary because what happens is you get 3 Cracklin for every 5 pork. And the problem is that your pork is every customer that comes in, you're going to be serving at least 1 pork depending on what cards you have. The Cracklin is a starter, so that's always optional. So you're never going to sell as many Cracklin as you do pork. It's impossible to do so unless everybody coming in gets Cracklin as a starter, which not every group gets. They don't always have a start. The full groups never have a starter always, right? I'll rephrase it. So every group that comes in will have starters, but not everybody in the group will have a starter. Proper English. Well, as proper as I can get it. So anyway, what this does is basically what happens is when this backs up here, when the pork backs up on this portioner is going to portion the pork like this one is doing. You can't avoid that. So the way around it is to have a smart grabber pulling the portion pork going to a jiggle bin. And we'll let this run, and we'll show you what I mean. I'll try to serve some pork. Now the safety hob is a bit slow in the beginning, just like it is for bread or anything else. But you know what? It's not really a big deal. Let's just let this run, and this will demonstrate what this looks like when everything backs up. I'll try to simulate it. And then this one up here, this corner grabber, this is here for a specific reason, and I'll show you why when we get to that point. Because, like I said, what's going to happen is the pork eventually is going to back up, and since Cracklin is a starter, depending how you're serving, if you have 4 tables lined up and you're serving 1, 2, 3, 4, all starters at the same time, then you're going to have Cracklin, 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 right? Instead of having Cracklin pork, Cracklin pork. If you're just serving one table back to front, then it's different. So as you see here, this is going to fill up, this is filling up here, which is fine. Now the pork, once you get to that last step of the pork, it'll take 2 more cooks, just because I want to show you what happens up here when this happens. And the way Cracklin works is you get 3 Cracklin per 5 pork, and I believe that's done to kind of offset the imbalance of it being a starter and whatnot. All right, this one's full now. This one's going to portion as normal. So all right, this is going to be the next one. I'm going to show you what happens with this setup here and why you need to have this. And again, this is a dish if you have the Cracklin. If you don't have Cracklin, then this is 100% foolproof. You can just run the Cracklin right into the jiggle bin and you're fine. Here we go. So this is what's going to happen. It's going to portion it, and the portioner doesn't care what's here. So it's going to start portioning the pork. And this is going to be sitting here. The Cracklin's sitting here. Okay, now say now we're serving some pork, right? Watch what happens. I'm just going to take some pork here. I should have put a prep station here. Put some pork here, just to force this pork to go. So watch what's going to happen now. The jiggle bin is doing its thing. This wants to portion up into here, right? But it can't because it has to wait for the pork to finish. Now look what happens. Okay, now we're good with pork, but now the Cracklin is building up. So say we're done serving starters and we need more pork. Well, eventually this right here is going to run out because this one is going to sit right here. The Cracklin is going to sit. So the way you can avoid that is if you turn this is going to go to the jiggle bin. Now, an easier way, honestly, for me is if you'd have a composting bin, you could put that right next to this and do this manually. Because there's no foolproof way to do this. If you have Cracklin going into a separate jiggle bin all the time, what's going to happen is what? Well, it's not going to work because it'll just continually feed it and feed it and feed it, and eventually you're going to run out of crackling. So as you see, the bin's working here. Now I'm going to see it's going to work here. That's going to pull that one. That's going to pull that one. And now we're back to being able to do pork. Now, you could go one step further with this and put the grabber going into the big part of the crackling instead of the small ones. But to me, I'd rather do the small ones because once you start backing up like this should be able to keep up with it. And again, if you seem like you're running out of crackling, all you do is just turn it to face up. So this does require a bit of manual work. Again, we can turn it that way. You can see it'll continue to cycle through. I don't think I can pull enough pork for this to pull a whole nother one out. Maybe I can. Let's see if we can. Just to demonstrate what it'll look like. Oh, maybe I can't actually do it. No, is it going to be enough? Because pork gives you 5 portions. It's so hard to pull that many. All right, this should do it, okay? And as you can see here, the smart grabber here the portion was already starting to portion the pork because of the way that this is set up. So it's a very tricky one. This is not 100%. Like when I do my automation, I like to have 100% automation, and eventually these will run out, and then this will do this. I mean, what might be better is to actually have 2 jiggle bins, have another one sitting off here or over here, just so the crackling, or you could just kind of have it going into a larger bin. And then just take the garbage out. But the way that this is set up, it's impossible, in my opinion, it's impossible to have a system that never backs up no matter what you're doing. Either you're going to run out of pork, you're going to run out of crackling, or you're going to have too much pork or too much crackling. It's just inevitable. That's what's going to happen. But this is the best automation, let's get off of this, that I've found. It requires a very little bit of manual work, which is going to be here. If you're worried about the jiggle bin, just get 2 of them. Put this one here or something, and then that's all you gotta do. You can move this like this, and then just duplicate the jiggle bin. I don't have another jiggle bin, but I can use this one to simulate it. And it would just go like that. And then at the beginning of the day, when you start it up, you would just basically just turn this. It doesn't matter which way, as long as it's not facing in. Just turn it like that, and there you go. And then just when it backs up, flip it over here. It'll fill the bin up. This jiggle bin will do it every 8 seconds or something, and there you go. But we're gonna get off of this because, yeah. That's kind of the way that I would do this. This is one of those, I love doing automation, like my donut automation and different ones where it's like it's foolproof, it will never back up. This will back up. It's impossible to not have it back up without some sort of crazy logistics or some crazy more of these or different. It's impossible because of the way the speeds work. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's a bit of a long one, but I wanted to explain why things are set up this way. Thank you guys for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving me a like as well as a comment. Much appreciated. And you know what? If you have an idea how to automate it where it's 100% foolproof, where it will never back up no matter what you're serving, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'd love to see it, but I haven't come up with a method yet. All right, guys, hit the subscribe button, take the bell notification icon, follow me on the Ontario Gardener second channel for all things non-gaming related that has to do with my outdoor life. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I'll catch you next time in the next automation tutorial.